Welcome to Go Rhino Garage. I'm Pete Kikich, and today we're installing the BRJ40 Front Modular Bumper on the 07 current Jeep Wrangler. So let's get started to remove the front bumper. First of all, you need to remove the plastic splash pan from the front of the vehicle. There's a series of push-in rivets along the front and a few in the back that you need to remove. Just take a flat blade screwdriver and pry them out. I've already taken the opportunity to remove several of them. Okay, we got the splash pan removed. Next, what you want to do is you want to unplug the factory fog lights from the wiring harness, the vehicle wiring harness, and actually you want to disconnect the wiring harness from the inside of the bumper, unsnap the clips that hold that in place. So said to accelerate the process, I've already disconnected the fog lights and unsnapped the wiring harness from the bumper. Next though, we're going to remove the bolts that actually attach the bumper to the vehicle frame. Actually, they're just nuts. They're studs that are on the factory bumper. There's 4 on each side that protrude from the factory bumper and go into the end of the frame. So we need to remove those 4 nuts on each side. Again, I've already taken the opportunity to remove the ones from the center, like I say, just to accelerate the process. So also, when you remove those nuts, you'll notice that there's a backing plate. There's actually 4 backing plates, 2 on each side. We're going to reuse those backing plates when we install the brackets that are included with the BRJ40 bumper replacement. Okay, like I say, we'll save those backing plate. All right, wires are disconnected for the fog lights. Now we'll just lift the bumper off the vehicle. All right, so next we want to remove this little splash shield from the top. Since we're not going to be reinstalling this splash shield, there's a little Phillips head plastic screw that actually holds that on into a like an expanded rivet, but since we're not going to reinstall that, we're just going to end up prying that right off of there. Okay, we've got the factory bumper removed from the vehicle. Now we need to take the vacuum canister. We actually need to relocate that. What we're going to do is remove the factory bolts holding that to the frame. So what I mean by relocating, we're actually going to do is we're actually going to space it up off the original mounting bracket that's on the side of the frame. So what we need to do is clip these tie wraps here. Then what we're going to do is we're actually going to lift the canister. We're going to rotate it 180 degrees. And then we're going to just add a couple of spacers, which are supplied. But you need to get another spacer. So like I say, just Place those spacers right underneath there. Reinstall the factory bolts. Okay, we've got the vacuum canister relocated. We're good to go there. So now we're at the stage where we need to assemble the bumper. That means add the end caps to the bumper, and we'll move on with the installation. Okay, we're ready to assemble the end caps on the BRJ40 Modular Front Bumper for the Wrangler 07 to current Wrangler. Anyway, so we've already removed the storage drawer, the top mesh cover, and the front mesh covers. So now we're going to go over the end caps a little bit. So we actually offer 3 end caps for this front bumper. We offer a stubby, a straight, and a full end cap. This happens to be the straight end cap. In the end caps, the straight and the stubby and the full actually come with a bracket so you can install the factory fog lights. So you remove those from the bumper. There's actually a plate, adapter plate for the stubby and straight. Adapter plate, take the factory fog light out, bolts into this flange here. And we also offer for the straight and the full a adapter plate, an optional accessory plate for rigid dually D2s or dually XL lights. And then for the stubby, which I don't have here, there's actually a plate which attaches to the front so you can install the factory fog light. So let's go ahead and attach the end cap to the bumper center. So there's actually 3 bolts that hold the end caps onto the center. What you're going to do is just start the bolts. Get all 3 of the bolts started. And what you want to do is align the outer surface of the end cap in the bumper center. Try to get those flushed up, and then go ahead and tighten up the bolts. Okay. All right, now we're ready to go ahead and install the frame brackets and the bumper. All right, we've got the bumper end caps installed. Now we're going to install the frame bracket and the auxiliary bracket on the passenger side of the vehicle. We've already installed it on the driver's side, but I want you guys to see the installation for the passenger side. So start off with the frame bracket. We're going to use the bolts supplied with the kit to install the frame bracket. So attach the bolts, carriage bolts actually in the top and bottom. You want to remember to reinstall the backing plates that were with the factory bumper. So there's actually 4 bolts to hold the frame bracket on. Alright, so we've got the 4 bolts to hold the frame bracket on. You don't want to tighten these up. You want to just start a few threads on those bolts because you want this bracket to kind of hang in place. Next, we're going to install the passenger side auxiliary bracket. This actually attaches to the side of the frame. There's this cross member here, the bracket for that cross member. You can actually attach to the side of that. But we're going to use these 2 holes on the side of the cross member bracket here. We need to actually snake a bolt down through here and pull it out. So we supply this guide wire to pull that bolt through. So you just want to thread that on the end of the bolt, a few threads. Run it down through there so that wire actually comes out through the hole. There we go. So you want to pull that bolt through, take off the guide wire. Just want to drop it back in there. Then we have a T-bolt for the top hole. So we're just going to snake that right up through this hole here. So the threads of that actually protrude out. So we've got the bolts in place. Drop the nut. Tape. Next, we're going to position the bracket. Up over the bolts. Alright, same thing with the auxiliary bracket, just finger tighten those bolts, just kind of let it fall in position. So now we have the frame brackets installed and the auxiliary brackets. Next step is we're going to be actually installing the bumper. So for this you're going to need some assistance to lift the bumper up, slide it up over the brackets, and then into position and install the bolts. Ready? Okay, we've got the driver and passenger side frame and auxiliary brackets installed. Now we recommend just applying some masking tape to the face of the D-ring tow hook just to prevent scratching those when you install the bumper. All right, now we're ready to install the bumper. Here's where you're going to need some assistance. Okay, so you want to start the bolts in the front where it actually attaches to the frame bracket. All the bolts and washers are supplied for this attachment. So there's 4 bolts holding it into the face. And then there's 2 bolts actually on the side. And then there's 2 additional bolts on the top of the bumper shell which are securing it to the auxiliary bracket. These are the smaller button head type bolt. Okay, just want to get those started. All right, looks like we got all the bolts in. So now you just want to check the side-to-side alignment. You can get a little bit of adjustment out of these brackets from side to side on the vehicle. A little up and down. Looks actually pretty good at where it sits. So let's go ahead and tighten up the bolts. So tighten up the bolts in the face of the bumper, which secure to the frame brackets first. And you want to tighten the bolts on the side. Okay, alignment's still looking pretty good. Tighten up the bolts for the auxiliary brackets. All right, now we're going to tighten up the brackets, securing the frame and auxiliary brackets to the side of the vehicle frame. All right, there's 2 more bolts on each side that we're not going to tighten at this time. We're just trying to accelerate the process here to show you guys the install. So at this point, if you're going to install a winch on the bumper, you would need the winch accessory plate. So what the winch accessory plate is actually a mounting plate for the winch fairlead for either your Haas type or your roller type. So what you do is you'd install the fairlead to the winch plate, use the manufacturer's hardware that comes with the fairlead, and to position that on top of the bumper. There's a set of holes in the top of the bumper which actually match the manufacturer's winches, so you'd place your winch on top, install the winch and the winch plate to the bumper shell using the hardware and bolts supplied with the manufacturer's winch. All right, so the bumper is all secure on the front of the vehicle. Now just to let you know that the factory fog lights are in the center of the bumper, and BRJ40 bumper replacement, the fog lights are towards the outboard side. So because of that, you have to take the factory wiring harness for the fog lights and splice in several inches on each side to reconnect those. Okay. So next we're going to, if you're not installing a winch, you would reinstall the mesh cover on top. And but in the case we're just going to show you if you are installing a winch, you would need to purchase the optional winch tray. And this optional winch tray has provisions for either a Haas type or roller type fairlead. So it'd use the manufacturer's hardware that comes with that fairlead. You would attach it to the winch plate, position it up on top of the bumper center there. Then you install your winch, sandwich the winch plate in between the winch and the top of the bumper, and then again you'd use the manufacturer's hardware provided with the winch to secure that. So that's if you're, like I said, you have an option. You can either mount the winch there or you can use the optional purchase separate winch tray. Okay, and if you're using that winch tray or a winch up here, you can either separate these 2 mesh covers on the top. There's actually like a beauty ring you can install up there, put the bolts back in, and it hides the nutserts up there, give it a nice look. Okay, so we're going to reinstall the covers because we're not going to be installing a winch at this time. We just want to show you the complete bumper. So there's several bolts that actually secure this. And then you're also going to want to install the mesh covers that are to conceal the bolts there, the attachment bolts to the bumper to the frame brackets. Okay, so we got all the bolts in there for the mesh covers. Go ahead and tighten those up. You want to kind of start at the top and work your way down when you tighten those. Okay, you want to make sure you don't over tighten these bolts too. And the instruction sheets state to tighten these, I believe it's about 70 inch-pounds, so just make sure you don't over tighten those. So the covers are on, the mesh covers are in place. Last is to reinstall the storage drawer. All right, we've got the mesh covers installed. Now we need to reinstall the tool storage drawer. So you want to pull the glides out in the bumper shell. And you align the glides that are on the storage drawer with those. And slide it into position, close it up. This storage drawer also has a locking mechanism down below so you can secure your items in there. Now if you wanted to buy the optional light bar mount accessories, we have 3 variables of those. They actually have provisions on the top side for stem type mount lights or light bars down below. These light bars actually attach to the top of the bumper shell. There's holes in the bumper shell, threaded holes in there where they attach tops and the face of the bumper. If you'd like to know more about our Jeep product lines, please visit us online at gorhino.com or call our friendly customer service at 888-427-4466. Thank you and have a great day.